This is Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerantz in San Luis Obispo today, and we are joined by the fire chief of the city of San Luis Obispo. His name is Garret Olsen. And sir, I want to speak with you about how fire agencies, as a vessel of a city, is working to conserve water.
Well, it's a great and very timely question. And so we're consumers of water just like any other business in the community, and so we've gone to some efforts on that side that I'll get to in a second.
Please.
But on the bigger side, you know that we primarily use water to fight fires.
Yes, you do.
And so the best way to conserve water is to prevent the fire before it begins.
Okay.
And so like many other communities, the City of San Luis Obispo Fire Department is involved in fuel reduction efforts. So we'll go out and we'll try and decrease the chance of a fire starting by trimming brush from around transportation corridors or around homes. We work with homeowners associations, with our Parks and Rec department, our natural resources folks that we'll go out and just recently we went out to Laguna Park and took out some trees that were diseased and dead, and we took them out before they could burn, and so that's water safe.
And let me ask you about diseased trees, because I know up and down the state there has been a beetle infestation, in large part because of the drought. The drought has fueled the ability of the beetle to take over these live trees. So is that impacting the Central Coast?
Oh my goodness, yes.
It is.
And probably the poster child for that impact is the community of Cambria, just north of us here. And you know, all fires involve local firefighters, and when a fire gets so big in a community that there are no more local firefighters left in Cambria or in San Luis Obispo, more local firefighters are deployed from throughout the state to assist. And so we've been really active in communicating with the fire service up in Cambria.
Okay.
And if there's a fire up in Cambria, the entire county of San Luis Obispo and probably surrounding counties will be there to fight the fire.
What can you do? What are you doing in the wake of this infestation, which is killing trees on its own without you removing them?
Absolutely, and so the trees need to be removed, but that becomes a huge logistical nightmare and a tremendous cost. And so part of the concern up in Cambria is a lot of these dead trees are on private property. And so it becomes a funding nightmare for homeowners to go out and remove 5, 10, 15 trees that can cost thousands of dollars to remove.
Is it their requirement to do that?
And that's what they're working through right now. And there are grant funding being made available to assist that community and other communities with their fuel reduction efforts. But it's not as simple as waving a wand or an axe and getting rid of that problem. It takes time and a lot of effort. But thankfully, the citizens of Cambria have come together. It is an example for other communities in coming together for a common cause, and the fire service has rallied around them.
I have noticed throughout the state recently, through these summer months, we've had these sudden storms. All of a sudden it will rain for a day, we'll get very happy. But
we need more of those.
We need more of those. But there's always, you know, a blessing and a curse to any event.
Yeah.
And I've learned that some of those storms are electrical, which can cause fires. I've also learned, and help me out here, that with those sudden bursts of rain, you can get a little growth. A little grass growth or shrub growth. But the problem is that grows for a couple days and then it dries out because there's no rain, and then you have another problem because there's more fuel for fire.
And that really defines this year's fire problem. Is we got enough rains that we have a good amount of grasses, and we call this ladder fuels, where you'll have a start by a roadside because somebody didn't pull their chain up and they're dragging a trailer and it kicks sparks off into the grass. That grass is a sufficient amount of fuel that on a windy day can drive it up into the chaparral, up into the shrubs. Those shrubs are dry enough from years of drought that they burn really hot and take it up into the trees. And so what we encourage homeowners to do is to break that ladder.
How?
So you'll limb up your trees. So we tell people there are 2 defensible zones that we need homeowners to really pay particular attention to.
And this is critical, by the way.
This is absolutely critical.
Especially in communities like San Luis Obispo with fairly sizable lots.
Exactly.
In urban areas.
So within 30 feet of your house, we ask you to remove all fuel. So if you have dead dead trees, get rid of it. Don't keep firewood within 30 feet of your house, or dried storage sheds. Get a good coat of paint on them and make sure that their eaves are covered with something that'll prevent embers from blowing in. And then 100 feet out, and that's pretty big.
It is.
You want to concentrate on decreasing those ladder fuels. So if you have trees that are overhanging your shrubs, you want to create about 8 feet minimum of spacing between the top of a shrub and the lowest branch of a tree. And a lot of our trees in our forests depend on fire. It's a natural part of nature. And in a lot of cases, it tells trees when to germinate and when to spread seeds. And let me ask you about that,
because I've been reading a bit. It's a dangerous thing.
It is.
And some have argued that maybe the Smokey the Bear campaign was not the best thing, because what that campaign taught us is put out the fire as fast as possible. Maybe we should let these fires burn?
So fires are a natural part of Mother Nature, of our environment. And unfortunately, what we've done is we've done a great job of putting out fires. And what has happened is we've artificially created way too much fuel. If you went back 200 years and looked at many of our forests, there'd actually be less trees than there are now.
Interesting.
There are more trees now because the fires don't come in and clean out all that undergrowth and some of the smaller trees. And so all of the trees are able to thrive. And then you get a drought situation where you've got more trees competing for less water, and you've got this explosive situation. So we got here by putting out a lot of fires. Simply letting a lot of fires burn isn't always the answer, because the fire...
Is it ever the answer? Because I feel like right now it's not the answer, at least...
It is a highly, highly calculated decision on when and where to let fires burn. One of the problems with the amount of fuel that we have in our forests now is they can burn so hot that they'll actually sterilize the soil.
Which means?
Which means that those seeds that may drop into the soil may never germinate, because all of those minerals and the natural chemical balance of the soil has been sterilized to a depth that wouldn't allow those seeds to germinate. Yeah. And so it was a very thoughtful process that got us here, and it needs to be a very thoughtful process that gets us out of here.
What about these controlled burns?
Well, controlled burns are absolutely essential. There are a lot of ways that you can control fuels. You can do it with livestock. You can put goats and cattle up on ranges, and that controls some of those ladder fuels. It'll get the grasses down. So if a fire starts on the side of a road, it moves into a field that's been mowed down by cattle, and the fire stops right there.
So let's go back to cities, because I know that the fire department here in San Luis Obispo is taking steps to minimize its water use outside of fire retardation.
We're trying to be good citizens just like everybody else. And so we have shut off all of the water to all of our beautiful emerald green lawns at all our fire stations. And that's phase one of what really should happen, which is we're going to transition our fire station landscape into a demonstration garden where our citizens can come. It'll be a destination for our citizens to come and see how beautiful drought tolerant can be, and how we'll plant plants that are natives and fire safe. And so, it becomes educational.
In our final moments, I want to ask you about a tribute that you are about to launch to the heroes of 9/11, those that we lost.
Yeah, so 343 firefighters lost their lives in the World Trade Centers. 60 police officers, law enforcement officials did. The San Luis Obispo City Firefighters Union was successful in acquiring a large metal I-beam from the World Trade Centers. And we're in the process right down the street right now of building a memorial using public arts funds, and a wonderful person named Melissa Mudgett is leading that effort along with Captain Matt Callahan for an amazing memorial destination for students. It's going to be incredible.
Well, other than the obvious, why?
Because we can't forget, because we honor those that have fallen, and because you've got school-age kids right now that weren't even born when 9/11 happened, and we don't want them to forget that. Just like you or I might go to Pearl Harbor to remember the USS Arizona and those who lost their lives on December 7th, we want to make sure that nobody ever forgets the 403 people, public safety officials that lost their life.
His name is Garret Olsen. He is the fire chief in beautiful San Luis Obispo. My name is Brad Palmer. This is Charter Local.